Okay. That constant ratio, how you can find that constant ratio, this is found by dividing each term by the previous term. Okay, a sequence of numbers, so geometric sequence, a sequence of numbers in which the ratio remains constant by multiplication in this case. Okay, and then the common ratio, we're going to find that common ratio by dividing terms by its previous. Okay, so if you were to see something here, right, what is 10 divided by 2? Okay, that common ratio is 5, right, because 10 divided by 2 is 5, and you would check it to make sure that it held out. 10 times 5 would be 50. 50 times 5 is 250, so on and so forth. Right, so that's what we're going to be doing, and then we'll try to figure out how can we build some equations based off our ratio. Okay, so we did look, right, number one, I just told you, right, 10 divided by 2 is what? 5, right? So if 10 divided by 2 is 5, then 2 times 5 is 10, right? 10 times 5 is 50, right? Times 5 times 5. 50 times 5 is 250. So did this hold up the whole way? Yes. Okay, so determine whether the following represents a geometric sequence. If yes, identify the ratio. We've got yes, and our ratio being what? 5, right? That's the number that we're multiplying by over and over and over again. Okay. All right, so the question is, can we have fractions as a ratio, right? We see that we can have a whole number. Can the number get smaller each time? Yes or no? Somebody shake your head like this. We don't know yet, but we're going to go ahead and guess that we can. All right, so we'll look at what that is. All right, so somebody, if you're going to have a smaller number, all right, so if you're getting smaller, okay, it's going to tell you that you're multiplying by a fraction, which is the same thing as dividing. Okay, but we'll look at it as multiplying by a fraction. Okay, so when you see problems like this, okay, 135 then to 45, where it's getting smaller, what you should do is you should type in on alpha y equals 45 over 135 and see what that fraction is. Okay, so on alpha y equals on your calculator, you need to type in 45 on the numerator, okay, 135 on the denominator, and tell me what that number when it gets simplified is. You get 1/3. Everybody else get 1/3? Feel good? 1/3, yes, no? All right. So we think that that number is 1/3. So take that 1/3, okay, and multiply it by 45. You get 15. Is that our next number? Yes or no? Yes. All right, now take 1/3 and multiply it by 15. What do you get? You get what? 5. Right, that's our next number there. So does the 1/3 hold up the entire way? Yes. Okay, so we do have a sequence, yes, where R is equal to 1/3. Okay, where R is equal to 1/3. All right, any questions on 1 or 2? Everybody's good there? All right, let's look at 3. Okay, so we've got from 6 to 18. How do you multiply or take 18 divided by 6? What do you get? 3. Okay, so now take 3 and say 18 times 3. 18 times 3 is what? 54. Is 54 24? No. So no, because that would have gave you 54. Okay, so do we have a sequence? No. No sequence. We didn't have a number that gets multiplied over and over and over again. What do you notice about this sequence? You've got a what number? Positive. Then you've got a negative. Then you've got a negative. So what does that mean you're multiplying by? At least, what do you know you're multiplying by? A negative. So whatever this number is should be a negative number. All right, so take negative 14, divide it by 7, and see what you get. You get negative 2. All right, now take that negative 2 and multiply it by negative 14. What do you get? 28, right? And then 28 times negative 2 is? Negative 56. So that negative 2 is your ratio that entire way, yes?
Yup.
Right? So yes, we have a sequence, yes, and it is negative 2. Negative 2. Alright, same sort of deal on 5, where you're going positive, negative, but here we're getting smaller, which means that my R would be a what? If I'm getting smaller numbers, my R would be a fraction. Okay. So let's take a look. Alright, so if we're getting smaller, this is where we're using alpha y equals. Okay, so put negative 40 on top, put 80 on bottom. So put negative 40 on top, 80 on bottom, what do you get? Oh wait, no. Negative 1/2, right? You get negative 1/2. Okay. You didn't do anything, which is why you're confused. Right? Alpha y equals, put it in. Negative 40 on top, 80 on bottom. Okay, when that simplifies, you should get a negative 1/2. Okay, and you'll want to check to make sure that that works the rest of the way. So negative 1/2 times 40 gives me what? So negative 1/2 times negative 40 gives you a positive place, right? Negative times negative is positive. Alright, so we know that's negative 1/2. Okay, negative 1/2 times 20 gives you negative 10. Okay, so negative 10. So yes, we have a sequence, and it is R is equal to negative 1/2. Alright. What do we confuse? Nobody did as well on this. What do we confuse on the okay, so negative, unless you're taking the number and you're dividing it by its previous term, not the next term. Okay, so it's negative 40 divided by its previous term, which is 80. Okay, that simplified is negative 1/2. Okay, so whatever your term is, divided by your previous term. Just like we did here. 10 divided by 2 gave us 5. Right? What else? Anybody have any other questions? Alright, and then let's take a look at number 6. Okay, so take negative 36 divided by its previous term. Okay, negative 36 divided by its previous term gives you what? 4. Okay, now we want to multiply that out the rest of the way and see if it holds up. Negative 36 times 4 gives me negative 144, so we know it still works there. Negative 144 times 4 gives me negative 576, which is what we have. Okay, so that holds up. So yes, and R is equal to 4. Okay? Everybody okay there? Feel good? Excited to be in class? Yes? Shake your head like this. There it is. Alright. Let's move on. Alright, so given the geometric sequence, find the next 3 terms. Okay, so we've got to figure out what R is, and then we're going to extend this out. Okay, so you've got negative 21. Okay, to find that R, you got to say negative 21 divided by 7. Okay, what do you get? You get negative 3. Okay, so take negative 21 and multiply it by negative 3. What do you get? 63. Is that what we have? Yes, you know that that's your R. Now take 63, multiply it by negative 3. What do you get? Negative what? 189. Negative 189. Negative 189 times negative 3 gives us 567. Right? 567 times negative 3 gives us negative 1,000 what? 701. Alright. So we extended that sequence out. Does that feel better or worse than what we just did? Like that better or worse? Better? Like that better? Should be a little bit better. Alright. So let's continue it out. Alright, for number 8. Okay, so we've got 768. 768 divided by 3072. What do you get? 768 divided by 3072. You got what? 0.25, and that's the same thing as 1/4. And you could either use 1/4 or you could use 0.25, whichever one. Okay, that multiplied by 768 gives us 192, which is what we have. We'll use the 0.25. Okay, y'all like decimals better or fractions better? Decimals. Let's use the decimals. Okay. Right, it'll tell you that if you don't do it in alpha y equals. If you do it in alpha y equals, it'll tell you the fraction. So it's just whichever way you type it in, it's going to give you one or the other. So let's say r is equal to 0.25. Okay, 0.25 times 192 gives me 48. 48 times 0.25 gives me 12. 12 times 0.25 gives me 3. Okay, so we've extended that sequence out. Okay, what do we think there? Feel good?
Good.
All right. 4 divided by 8 gives you 0.5. 0.5 times 4 gives you 0.5 times 4, 2, which is what we have. 2 times 0.5 gives you 2 times 0.5 gives you 1. 1 times 0.5 gives you 0.5. 0.5 times 0.5 gives you 0.25. Now you've extended that one out. Alright, the last one here. Okay, negative 25 divided by negative 5. That gives you 5. 5 times negative 25 gives you negative 125, which is what we had, right? So we're good to go. So, negative 125 times 5 gives you negative 625. Negative 625 times 5 gives you negative 3,000 what? 125. 3,125. Okay, then that times 5 gives us negative 15,600 what? Alright. Any questions on that? Alright, so we like extending the, do we like doing the extending better, or do we like finding what R is better? Really either one, because you still have to find R here, right? So, so if you can find R, you can extend, right? Alright, so then we'll use our formula. Okay, so the nth term, so we've talked about this with arithmetic or arithmetic ones where you got to extend it for the 37th term or whatever. Okay, so finding whatever term, let's come up with the formula. Okay, let's let A1, and that's going to be our first term. Okay, what's another way that we've talked about first term? Well, I asked this question yesterday. What's another way we can talk about the first term? Your initial amount, right? What's another way we call it initial amount? Huh? Principal. Okay. So A1 would be your first term. Okay. R would be your ratio. Obviously, we've been finding R. Okay. So for whatever number of an that we want to find, okay, so an would be whatever your first term is, A1, okay, A1 times R raised to the n minus 1 power. Okay, so there's your formula that we want to use. Write that down. And there's your formula that we want to use. All right, so let's look at some problems here. So we're at 9:07. So let's find out what R is. Okay, so R, we're going to say second term divided by first term. 9 divided by 3 gives us 3. Okay, does 9 times 3 give us 27? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes. right? So what is R?
3.
R is 3. Okay, alright, what was A1? What's my first term?
3.
3. So, for this problem, we want to find A to the 7th. We want to find the 7th term. Okay, so whatever A7 is, right, that's our n value. Okay, it's going to be equal to our first term. Look at your formula, right? It started off with A1. A1 is 3. So 3 times your ratio, which is 3. So 3 times 3 raised to the n minus 1 power. Well, n is what? 7. So raised to the 7 minus 1 power. Okay, 7 minus 1 is just 6. So if you wanted to write that as 3 times 3 raised to the 6th power, you could. Okay, now what I have highlighted here is plug in the calculator. Okay, and it'll tell you what your 7th term is. So type that right side, what's in the highlighted part.
How did you get
7 came from our, what the n was. Okay, it told us up here, find A7.
7? Oh, it's not an secret.
Alright, what we get? 2,187. Does everybody agree?
No.
I agree, but does everybody agree?
I agree to agree.
Okay, if I agree, everybody else all of a sudden agrees without doing the work?
Yup.
That's crazy.
No.
Alright, any questions on 11? Alright, let's see. Let's do 12 here. Alright, so how do we get from 20 to negative 4? So 20 divided by negative 4 gives us
Negative 5.
negative 5. So we want to check to make sure it works for the next term. So 20 times negative 5 gives us
Negative 100.
negative, so it works, right? So that is my
Ratio.
ratio,
Yeah,
right? That's your ratio. So R is equal to negative 5. Okay, my first term, A1 is
Negative 4.
negative 4. So when I'm building this, right, I've got A to the 7th. We want to find the 7th term. Okay, this is going to be equal to my first term, which is
First negative 4.
negative 4 times
Negative 5.
negative 5 raised to the n minus 1, so 7 minus 1, which is 6. Okay, this number is not always 6. Okay, it's just they want us to find the 7th term for all these, so it's going to be 6 for all these. But if they wanted you to find A to the 13th, what would that exponent be?
12.
12, because it's n minus 1. Alright, plugging that in, what do you get?
62,500.
62,500. Everybody agree? Most definitely. Alright. What does this look like here? What does this look like?
The time we did the other week.
What unit are we on?
I don't know.
Nobody even knows what unit we're on? What have we been talking about this whole time? What type of function? Exponential. Okay, right, we've talked about that general formula for exponential. Y is equal to A times B raised to the x power. Does this look like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? All working towards the same stuff. Okay, alright, let's look at 13. So 13, alright, how do I get 200? Alright, so 200 back to 400, so 200 divided by 400 would be
2, right?
0.5,
0.5.
0.5, or 1/2, right? 200 is 1/2 of 400. Okay, 200 times 0.5 gives me 100, which is what we have. So that is my ratio, 0.5. Okay, my A1 is what? 400. Okay, we're still looking for the 7th term, so A7 is equal to 400 times 0.5 raised to the 6, right? N minus 1. What do you get? 6 point what?
25.
6.25, everybody agree? Yes, feel good? Alright, does everybody understand what we're doing? Feel like you could do some problems on your own? Okay, let's do a couple of these where we're not looking for the seventh term, so somebody give me a number. What term do you wanna find?
8.
Let's do something further, because we already gonna have 3, right?
8.
Okay, I heard 8, we can look for the 8, so let's say we're looking for, a 8, okay? So, from 5 to 1, 5 divided by 1 is 5, 5 times 5 is,
25.
so that is my
Ratio.
R is equal to 5, A1 is 1, okay? So we're looking now for A8, this will be equal to my first term, which is 1,
1,
my ratio, which is
5,
5, raised to the
7.
7th, right? We're looking for the 8th term, 8 minus 1 is 7, okay? Now plug that in,
Put it in, y'all.
you too. What'd you get? 78,125. Alright, everybody agree? Okay, this will be different than what's on the key, because we changed the problem. Alright, so just if you're going back and looking at the key, that'll be different. Alright,
Oh, I did it wrong.
so let's do one more with a different term amount. What we think? What's a good term? 12. Okay, so let's look at 12. Alright, so from negative 4 to negative 1. Excuse me. How do we, so we got negative 4 divided by negative 1, which is 4. Okay, negative 4 times 4 gives me
16.
negative 16. So that's my R. R is equal to 4. We're looking for A to the, what'd you say, 12? Okay, so we're looking for A12. What's my A1?
Negative 1.
Negative 1. Okay, so A12 is going to be equal to negative 1 times 4 raised to the 11. Okay. And what do we get when we plug that in?
Negative 4,194,304.
I think you got a little, did you get a little wrong?
She's right.
You got what? Negative what?
Negative 4,194,304.
Big number there.
There we go. All right. Any questions here?
Are we all good, coach?
All right, listen. You'll have 3 kind of categories.